Ilene, how are you today?
I'm good, Cicely. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, listen, before we jump in, there may be somebody new watching this video. Do you want to introduce yourself and then I'll do the same and then we'll get started.
Sounds great. My name is Ilene Rein. I'm an executive recruiter at Marketing and Sales Resources. We focus on marketing and sales professionals as well as engineers. I notice that people do not know how to market themselves. I see 500 plus resumes a day, and I created the program Pounding Pavement 101 to teach people exactly how to market themselves with laser precision so they exponentially increase their chances of getting noticed and hired.
I love that. Pounding Pavement 101. That's cool. Well, listen, and so if you help people get
Cicely,
hired, I come in on the
yes,
backside, right? So
yes,
I am
please.
more of a career and leadership coach who help people create a conversation that's going to change the trajectory of their career. So very similar to what you said, people get in their careers and they stop marketing themselves. They stop talking about themselves. They stop looking for that growth and that development and that, those advancement opportunities. And that's where I come in. People tell me their what, and I give them the how to reach their leadership and career goals. So listen, we're a good team here.
That is so important because I think you're right. I agree wholeheartedly that people stop marketing themselves. They figure once they get the job, they just do the job.
Yep.
But no, there's a whole corporate jungle in order to navigate. I'm so glad that you're there for young professionals as well as seasoned professionals.
Yeah, likewise. Okay, so I want to talk about that group you just mentioned, the young professionals. And I wanted to talk about them today, and hopefully this video is targeted directly to you guys and you're watching us, because after the Great Recession in '08 and '09, so many people coming out of school, so many young professionals had such a difficult time finding jobs. And now the pandemic is almost doing the exact same thing 10, 12 years later, where people who are coming out of school or even young professionals who want to switch jobs, who may have lost their job sort of, first in, reorg kind of situation, they're now looking for jobs again in a crazy job market, just like we had back in the recession. So I want to talk to these young professionals. And look, I found some stats here that I'm really fascinated by. So I want to read these to you. So 4 million college students are expected to graduate in 2020 to 2021. I mean, that's crazy. 4 million, 2 million bachelor's degrees, 1 million associate degrees. The average starting salary is 50K. Lord, where was that when you and I started out?
I wasn't earning that.
Half of 2020 college grads are still looking for work. Ilene, that's just crazy. I mean, you work with professionals who are seeking their first jobs, right?
Yeah, I work with a lot of college graduates. They are struggling right now. What's happening is a lot of them didn't get the opportunity to have those so important internships and co-op jobs due to the pandemic. So they're coming out of school without any experience.
Wow.
So there's nothing to put on their resumes. But okay, they got their degrees. Now what? And they're struggling in terms of finding jobs because they don't know how to market themselves. I find that the career services department has this one size fits all approach.
So true.
And they're just, checking off the box. And unfortunately, none of them are standing out. And I always equate it, Cicely, if you remember your first day of college, they say, look to your right, look to your left. One of you won't be there when you graduate.
That's right.
Well, guess what? That other person is your competition for the job.
Wow.
So how are you going to market yourself to stand out above that person? I know you're friends with them.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get you hired and then you can help your friend.
I do remember that statement because it scared the crap out of me thinking, oh, I'm just somebody's left and right. But you're right. That person is, and that's exactly right. So are there opportunities for this group in this environment?
There's a huge amount, especially right now, because think about it. The summer interns have not now gone back to school.
Oh, yeah.
So all those entry-level jobs, the type of entry-level work that college graduates would be looking for, they're looking for these people right now. But there's a disconnect because they don't know how to find them because it's not the traditional ways. And with the pandemic, the rules have changed. So, and they're changing day by day.
That's true.
So that's when they really need to go to professionals in order to get assistance.
Wow. Okay. So this is a good time for them. So what are
Yes.
the other challenges though? I mean, I certainly get the environment, but are there other challenges, or are there like, hey, be careful for this, sort of, pitfall here, or be careful, that this is going to like, how do you guide them through those challenges, and what are they?
Well, I'm walking them through because any job search is a marketing project. That's how I view it.
Totally
You're
fair.
marketing yourself to employers the same way that you would market a product to the marketplace.
Great point.
So let's say if you're going onto Shark Tank, you would do everything you could in your power to make sure that you're prepared to present yourself. And that's what you're doing. You are pitching yourself to an employer. Okay, but you have to do everything right nowadays. You really have to line it up. So look, you have to have a great resume. That's a no-brainer, but you have to have it targeted properly. Then, yes, LinkedIn is a must nowadays.
It is.
You have to have a profile that is really going to tell your story. But then you have to prepare for your interview. I notice people just go in and wing it. And I always equate that back to the SATs. Okay, but we're talking young professionals. Let's talk SATs.
That's an interesting analogy. Go ahead.
So when you went to take your PSATs, you didn't go in the next day to take the SATs. You practiced in between. You took a look at your results and you really evaluated, and then you studied, and then you went in and took the SATs. Hopefully you did better. Okay. But the interview preparation is the same way. And I don't believe in mock interviews because it's not the reality. It's not the real situation.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But then part 3 is you need a plan. And I think, Cicely, you can appreciate this, in terms of once you do get the job and career growth, you need a plan on how you are going to job search. And that's what most people are missing.
It is what most people are missing. And look, I tell my coaching clients all the time, first of all, the resume should always be kept up to date, even after you have your job. But I think you hit a good point. You're constantly marketing yourself, your value, what you bring to the table. As soon as someone gets hired and they move into the job market, they move into their position, really that's where I come in, because my conversation is, you're there. Now, what are you going to do with it? You have the position you wanted.
So,
right.
That was, say that again, because that was so key and that was so important.
Well, listen, I think it's important, and it's always where I start, because once you have the job, it's your first job. What's next for you? And if you're not constantly looking forward for what's next, what's the next career job, what's the next move, maybe there's growth, there's advancement opportunities. It's not okay to just put a butt in a seat and just sit there and think I'm okay, and I'll just wait till they come, till they come find me, or till they come ask me something. So I'm very big on this marketing yourself, knowing your value, but also starting to work with, a career coach, a leadership coach very early on in your career. Listen, I missed so many of those opportunities because I figured it out on my own. Didn't you? I'm sure you did the same thing.
I did. I never knew of that concept all those years ago. We won't say how many years. And the fact that these resources are available to help you, that you figured out the plan.
That's right.
Why struggle if someone's already figured it out and you can follow their advice?
That's exactly right. All right, listen, I have one last question for you, because I do have a young professional moved to DC. He reached out to me and said, look, I got hired on Zoom, and it's been a remote environment. I've never met my colleagues. So he was saying to me, like, what do I do? I've never been in this situation before. So do you have people who are interviewing by Zoom, and then they're starting to work by Zoom, and they've never met their colleagues? How do you coach them through that? That's kind of different kind of environment right now.
All the time. I mean, right now, all rules are out the window. People are interviewing by Zoom, but I think it's communication. You said that, you brought up that point in a previous video. It's all about communication and connection. So you have to go above and beyond the call of duty to connect with people, be it texting during the day, be it phone calls, be it Zoom calls. Even happy hours, just social calls. We all miss, talking at the water cooler, okay, or going out for coffee. You have to make time for that as well, because you know what? people build relationships that way. And when the relationships are built, I think that the workplace is much smoother. Can you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just because you're on Zoom, just because you're on Teams or whatever, it's not an impediment to building relationships. You're just building relationships in a very different fashion that will serve you well once you do go back to the office in person. So I could not agree more. But listen, how can someone find you who's watching this video? They're having a tough time finding a job. How can folks reach you?
They can reach me at my website. It's poundingpavement101.com. They can get right on my calendar from there.
Okay.
Cicely, and let me ask you, once I get them the job, at what point do they engage with you? Day one? Do they do it beforehand to help navigate? What's the best way?
Honestly, I think once they're hired and they start the job, I'd say in the first month, I would actually seek someone out, because think about it. You're new in a new job. How does your boss like communication? What kind of, is it written or is it verbal? Think of all those ground rules that you don't know that you're finding out. Why find those out the hard way? I mean, you said it well. If we've been through it, we have the tips to share. I always tell people, reach out to me early in their career. And that's what that gentleman did who moved to DC. He was like, look, I'm here, but what do I do? It's okay to say, what do I do? It's a great question. And if people want to reach me, they can go to my website as well. It's CicelySimpson.com. And you can get on my calendar there. You can request a meeting with me. And hey, listen, you and I can do calls together. You
Definitely.
and I absolutely do free consultation calls together, right?
We can work together. They could start with me and then transition them right into you. And look, we've done that with a few clients.
We have.
Okay, because after I got them hired, they started asking me questions, how to navigate, how to plan. And I said, go right to Cicely.
That's right. And same thing, people who contact me and say, hey, I'm looking for a job. And I'm like, I'm going to refer you to Ilene, and she's going to be a great resource for you. So yes, we can do calls together. We can do consultation calls. It's a package deal, people. You can talk to Ilene. You can talk to me. You can go to her website, poundingpavement101.com. You can go to my website, CicelySimpson.com. And we'll loop the other person in. So don't worry about that. We talk all the time. So we're happy to loop right? We're happy to loop each other
all
in.
the time.
Right. So final thoughts, Ilene, on this young professionals group before we conclude the video. What's your final piece of advice for this group?
Do not give up.
Okay.
Keep moving forward. Okay. This job market is a little crazy right now, but you have a long, wonderful career ahead of you. So just keep your eye on the prize.
All right. Listen, folks, keep going. You heard it from Ilene. If you don't get discouraged, keep going. Keep your eye on the prize. That opportunity is waiting for you. Ilene, thank you. We will talk again next week.
Okay, fantastic.
All right.
Thanks, Cicely.
Thanks.